I have a confession to make. I have this really distinct, vivid memory of walking out of the movie theater in the summer of 2023.
Okay.
I was wearing the pink shirt. I had the commemorative sparkly cup. I had just spent 2 hours laughing at Ryan Gosling's abs and Margot Robbie's, perfect smile.
Yeah.
And yet, as I walked to my car, the neon pink started to fade from my vision, and I just had this sinking feeling.
The post-credit crash. Your sugar high wearing off.
It was worse than that. It was this lingering sense of unease. Like I hadn't just watched a summer blockbuster comedy, but something sharper, something meaner. And for the longest time, I thought I was just projecting. Maybe I was just tired. But then you dropped this stack of research on my desk, specifically this one report on the ontological horror of plastic purgatory, and I realized, I wasn't crazy. I was just reacting to what the movie actually is.
You were picking up on the subliminal messaging, yeah.
I was.
It's funny you say you thought you were watching a comedy, because that is, I think, the greatest trick this film pulls.
It tricked everyone. The box office numbers don't lie.
It did. But that's the hook for today's deep dive.
Yep.
We are going to completely reframe the cultural phenomenon that was Barbie 2023. Because if you look at the narrative architecture, and I mean really strip away the disco music and the jokes, you aren't watching a fun romp about dolls.
What are you watching?
You are watching a psychological horror film about a cult.
A cult? See, now that feels like a stretch. That feels like you're trying to be edgy. It's a movie about toys.
Is it, though? I mean, think about the definition of a cult. Isolation from the outside world.
Check.
Enforced euphoric behavior. A charismatic leader.
Gotcha, check.
Severe punishment for deviating from the group thing, check. We're calling this the cult of toxic positivity.
Okay, all right. When you put it that way, the enforced euphoria bit does ring a bell. So our mission today is to act as investigative reporters. We're going to deconstruct this film not as a pop culture moment, but as a case study in existential dread.
Exactly. We're going to peel back that neon-soaked surface, and we have a lot to cover to do this justice.
Right.
We need to talk about the prison, which is what Barbieland actually is. We need to explain the glitch, which is, that moment consciousness invades the simulation. We have to discuss the villain, and spoiler alert, it's not who you think it is.
It's usually the guy in the suit, right?
It is the guy in the suit, but it's not just him. It's the entire architecture of the corporation itself. And then, we definitely need to talk about Ken.
Oh, Ken.
Because that subplot, that is a dark, dark descent into radicalization that mirrors some very scary real-world internet pipelines.
And finally, we'll get to the ending, which I remember being sort of sweet, uplifting almost, but your notes here say it's a death wish.
It's a death wish, plain and simple, but we'll get there.
All right, let's start at the very beginning, the cold open. The movie opens with this very famous, very direct parody of 2001.
A space odyssey.
Right, the monolith scene. And in the theater, everyone laughs. I laughed. You see these little girls smashing their baby dolls because a giant 50-foot Barbie appears in the desert. It's funny. It establishes the tone. But this report you've brought, it flags this as the first warning sign. Why? I mean, it's just a movie reference.
It is a reference, but think about why Greta Gerwig chose that specific reference. Do you remember the plot of 2001? A space odyssey.
Vaguely. Monkeys, monolith, HAL, space baby. Something like that.
Roughly, yes. So in Kubrick's movie, the monolith appears to the apes, and it sparks evolution. It touches them, and they learn to use tools. They become violent, yes, but they move forward. They evolve from the primitive to, the star child. It is a story about the progression of intelligence.
Okay, so the monolith equals progress, forward motion.
Exactly. Now look at Barbie. The monolith is replaced by a doll, a giant, perfect plastic doll.
Margot Robbie in the vintage swimsuit.
And what is the result of her appearance? The little girls don't evolve. They don't discover a new tool. They smash their current reality. The baby dolls, which represent, motherhood and care to worship this new idol. But here's the kicker. The idol is static.
What do you mean static?
Barbie doesn't age. She doesn't change. She is an object. She's a finished product.
So you're saying 2001 was about moving forward, and Barbie opens by telling us we're moving nowhere.
We are moving toward a static, immutable ideal. That's the phrase the analysis uses. The opening scene tells us right from the jump, welcome to a world where the goal is not to grow, the goal is to freeze.
To freeze time.
To become an object, to be perfect forever. And perfection, by its very definition, cannot change. Because if you change, you might get worse.
That is surprisingly bleak for the first 30 seconds of a movie that's supposed to be fun.
And that sets the stage for where we go next. Barbieland.
Which looks like paradise. I mean, come on. The dream house, the slide that goes right into the pool, the outfit changes. It's the childhood fantasy come to life.
On the surface.
But looking at it through this horror lens, the report calls it the prison of perfection.
Or as I like to call it, Groundhog Day from hell.
Groundhog Day from hell. Okay, unpack that. Because in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray is miserable. He's cynical, he's depressed. In Barbieland, everyone seems thrilled.
Do they? Are they thrilled? Or are they programmed to seem thrilled? Let's walk through the daily routine of stereotypical Barbie. We see it in that opening montage.
Right. She wakes up.
She wakes up instantly, no grogginess, no alarm.
Perfect breath.
Perfect breath. She weighs. The shower temperature is exactly right, but there's no water.
That's a key visual gag. It's a dry shower.
The heart-shaped toast pops out of the toaster. The milk carton is empty. It's a sequence. But look at the precision of it. It's mathematical. It's not just that she's having a good morning. It's that she is executing a script.
A script.
This report describes her existence as sensory and cognitive deprivation.
Whoa, hold on. Deprivation. She has everything. She has the convertible, the clothes, the friends. How on earth is that deprivation?
Because none of it is real. And I don't just mean real in the sense that, oh, it's a movie. I mean, within the logic of her world, she has the image of things, but not the substance.
The fake food.
Think about the eating scenes.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the horror really kicked in for me on the rewatch.
She holds the cup up to her mouth.
And nothing comes out. We see her putting plastic food near her face, but she never bites, never chews. There is no consumption. There is no biological satisfaction.
I remember thinking that was just a cute stylistic choice. You know, oh, look, they're playing into the toy logic. It's clever.
It is a stylistic choice, but it have a massive psychological consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you are a sentient being. You have consciousness. You go through the motions of eating breakfast every single day for eternity. But you never taste anything. You never swallow. You never feel that biological signal of fullness.
That sounds like Tantalus, the Greek myth, standing in a pool of water, but he can never drink.
It is exactly Tantalus. It's torture. You are alienated from your own biological reality. You are performing the act of living for an unseen audience, but you aren't actually living. The report compares it to The Truman Show, but I'd argue it's worse.
Because Truman could actually eat a burger. He felt hunger.
Truman was a biological human trapped in a fake world. These are entities trapped in what the report calls a digital purgatory. Their bodies aren't even their own. And the scariest part,
The smiling.
the smiling. Everyone is so happy about this sensory deprivation. And that brings us to the core concepts of this cult. Toxic positivity.
We hear that term a lot on social media. Usually it means like your friend telling you good vibes only right after your dog dies.
Right. But here, it's not just an annoying platitude. It's the governing law of the universe. Every day is the best day ever. I want you to really think about that sentence. If every day is the best day ever.
Then best doesn't mean anything. It has no value.
Exactly. Value comes from contrast. You only know what joy feels like because you know what sadness feels like. If the graph is a flat line at the top, it's still a flat line. There's no struggle. And without struggle, there is no time.
What do you mean, no time?
Well, time is marked by change, right? By decay, by growth. In Barbieland, there is no past to learn from because everything was perfect yesterday, too. There is no future to aspire to because tomorrow will be exactly the same perfect day. It's just an eternal, static present.
It's reminding me of that Black Mirror episode, USS Callister, where the digital clones are trapped in the game forever and they can't even die.
Yes, it's that kind of hell. And if you deviate from the script here, what happens?
We don't see anyone deviate. Not at first.
Well, that's the thing. You can't deviate. The control mechanism isn't pain. It's enforced cheer. Look at that waving scene in the cul-de-sac.
Oh, the choreography. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Every Barbie in the neighborhood waving at the exact same second.
It looks great on a movie poster. It sells tickets. It's a great shot. But watch it again with this in mind. It's the total loss of individual spontaneity.
It's a hive mind.
It's absolutely a hive mind. They aren't individuals making a choice to be friendly. Oh, there's Midge. I think I'll say hello. No. They are programmed nodes in a network executing a wave command simultaneously. It's a synchronized swimming routine that never, ever ends.
And physically, they can't stop. They have to keep waving.
They physically cannot stop smiling.
Yeah.
Imagine the muscle fatigue if they had muscles.
So the verdict on this first section, this prison segment, is that Barbieland isn't a utopia. It's not a paradise.
It's a sensory deprivation tank painted pink. It's a place where the punishment for existence is an eternity of repetition.
Which honestly makes the next part the inciting incident makes so much more sense. Because if I were trapped in that loop, I would probably start asking some weird questions too.
You'd have to. Your mind would eventually break, or in this case, wake up.
So we move to the dance party. It's loud, it's fun, Dua Lipa is blasting. It's the absolute peak of the best day ever. And then the record scratch.
The glitch. The bug in the system.
Barbie, mid-choreography, shouts, "Do you guys ever think about dying?" And the music literally cuts. The choreography stops. The other dolls look at her like she just grew a second head.
And in the logic of the film, the other dolls treat this as a mechanical malfunction. You can see it in their eyes. They're rebooting. They're thinking, this is a virus. This is a bug in the code. We need to reset.
But our report here argues that this isn't a malfunction at all.
No,
Oh.
not even close. It argues that from a Heideggerian perspective, this is the first moment of authentic being in the entire film.
Okay, pause. You can't just drop Heideggerian perspective and keep walking. We promised the listeners we'd break this down. Martin Heidegger, German philosopher. Big book called Being and Time. What does he have to do with Barbie?
So, to put it simply, Heidegger had this concept called being towards death. And it sounds super grim, but it's actually really life-affirming. He argued that death is the only thing that gives life definition.
How so?
Okay, think about a video game. If you have infinite lives in a video game, do you care if you fall off a cliff?
No, not at all. I just respawn.
Exactly. There are no stakes. If you are immortal, if you are plastic, nothing you do matters because nothing can ever be lost. By contemplating the end, by asking, do you guys ever think about dying? Barbie is, for the very first time, realizing that she exists. She is sensing the boundaries of her own life.
She's sensing the nothingness beneath the plastic surface.
She is waking up from the matrix. The report says asking about death is the only rational response to eternal plastic torture. I mean, think about it. If you were trapped in a loop of, hi Barbie, hi Ken, for 1,000 years, eventually your consciousness would scream for an exit.
And that exit is death.
It's the only way out of the loop.
God, that is dark. My mind is screaming for an exit, and the exit is death. It sounds like something from a Gothic novel.
And the system fights back immediately. It tries to pathologize her. Oh, you're malfunctioning. Go see Weird Barbie. But even before that, we get the physical horror, the body horror, the manifestations of reality breaking through the code.
The cold shower, the burnt toast, but specifically, the cellulite on her thigh and her feet going flat.
Now, think about the audience reaction to that. In the theater, when they showed the cellulite, there was an audible gasp. We are trained by society, and by Mattel, ironically, to see cellulite as a flaw, a failure. Barbie herself sees it as a horror show.
I mean, she retches. She is physically disgusted by her own body becoming real.
But the expert perspective here, our perspective, is that these aren't gross. These are signs of life. The flat foot means she is grounded. She is touching the earth instead of floating on these impossible high heels. The cellulite implies biological complexity, fat, skin, change. These are signs that the simulation is failing and reality is intruding.
It's basically body horror for dolls. Like David Cronenberg directed a toy commercial.
It absolutely is Cronenbergian. It's the new flesh, but for Barbie.
And that leads her to the meeting with Weird Barbie, Kate McKinnon, who is fantastic, but she plays the role of the Oracle, right? Or Morpheus in the Matrix.
She is the shaman of the outcast.
Yeah.
The gull who's been played with too hard.
She literally does the Matrix choice. The red pill or the blue pill. But instead of pills, it's footwear.
The high heel or the Birkenstock.
And let's be really clear about what those represent. The high heel is the simulation. It's the plastic purgatory. It's staying in the loop, going back to the parties, ignoring the thoughts of death. The Birkenstock is, well, what is it?
It's the gray, grim reality. And I love that Weird Barbie doesn't sugarcoat it. She doesn't say, choose the Birkenstock and find freedom and happiness. She says, effectively, choose the Birkenstock and see the truth. And the truth is messy. The truth is complicated. The truth has flat feet.
And Barbie tries to refuse. This is what I found so interesting. Usually, the hero is like, yes, show me the truth. I'm ready. Barbie is like, no, absolutely not. I want the heels. I want to go back to brunch.
Which highlights the depth of her indoctrination. This isn't a hero who wants to save the world. This is a cult member who wants to stay in the compound. She is terrified of leaving the corporate cult of perpetual happiness.
She has to be forced out.
She is kicked out of the nest. She is told she has to go to the real world to fix the glitch. Her motivation isn't to learn or to grow.
It's to repair the seal.
It's to repair the seal so she can come back and be a mindless, happy doll again. Her motivation is entirely conservative. She wants to conserve the status quo.
But when she gets to the real world, she doesn't find a solution. She finds the source of the nightmare. She finds Mattel.
Which brings us to the villain.
And this is where the movie shifts from existential dread to something that feels almost dystopian. Because the real-world Los Angeles isn't portrayed as much better than Barbieland.
No. But the specific focus here is Mattel headquarters. We go from the bright, eye-searing pink of Barbieland to this oppressive steel gray.
It looks like a fortress or a prison.
The report calls it a panopticon.
Okay, there's another big word. Panopticon. That's a prison design, right? Where the guard can see everyone, but you can't see the guard.
Right. It was designed by a philosopher named Jeremy Bentham. The idea is a circular prison with a tower in the middle. Because you never know if you're being watched, you have to behave as if you're always being watched.
And that's Mattel.
That's the headquarters. It's not a creative space for making toys. It's a fortress of surveillance. The board of directors sits at the top in this dark, windowless room. The report calls them a fascist intelligentsia enforcing product purity.
And then we have the CEO, played by Will Ferrell. Now, he's doing a bit, he's being funny, but let's look at his actual actions. What is his motivation?
His motivation is terror. Sheer, unadulterated terror. He is a terrified patriarchal god. Or, to use another philosophical term, a demiurge.
Demiurge.
In Gnosticism, the demiurge is a lesser god who creates the physical world, but is flawed. He's not the true god, he's a bungler. He created this world, but now he's lost control of it.
That fits perfectly. He's running around, he doesn't know how to handle a sentient doll, he's sweating, he's flustered.
And his goal is to suppress the feminine autonomous will. As soon as Barbie shows up, fully sentient, asking questions, his immediate reaction isn't, wow, a miracle, or let's study this. It's,
Get in the box.
get in the box.
That scene, I want to spend a minute on that scene because in the theater, people were laughing, but rewatching it, it's chilling. They convince her to get into a giant life-size doll box.
It's this symbolic execution of autonomy.
She steps in, and she smiles. And for a second, she looks relieved, like she's home.
That's the scary part, the comfort of the cage. The desire to go back to being an object.
But then they start with the twist ties. You know those annoying little wire ties that hold toys in place? They start wrapping them around her wrists.
The report calls those ties ideological threads of corporate fascism.
They are literally tying her hands.
They are tying her down to keep her perfect and silent. Putting her back in the box is the ultimate goal of the villain. They want to strip her of her newfound consciousness, her soul, effectively, and reset the machine. It's imprisonment, plain and simple.
It's also incredibly claustrophobic, the way the plastic sheet lowers. It's like being vacuum sealed.
It connects to the man box concept, societal constraints that define a woman's worth by her stasis and marketability. If she is in the box, she is a product. If she is out of the box, she is a problem.
But she escapes. And while she's running through this labyrinth of a building, she encounters a ghost.
Ruth Handler, the creator.
This adds a whole layer of Gnostic horror to the mix. It's like meeting God, but God is just an old lady having tea in a back room hiding from the IRS.
Ruth represents the abandoned creator trapped in her own machine. The report calls this the tragedy of the Pygmalion myth gone wrong. She created something beautiful, a symbol of possibility, but the corporation, the machine, twisted it into a fascistic miasma of consumerism.
And the corporation doesn't care about the ideals anymore. There's that moment with America Ferrera's character, Gloria, where she pitches ordinary Barbie.
Yeah.
And the CEO hates it until someone in the back mentions money.
Right. And then his eyes light up. Ordinary Barbie proves that Mattel is post-ideological. They don't care about feminism. They don't care about empowerment. They only accept not perfect if it can be monetized. Their feminism is just a mask for control.
So Barbie is running from the corporation. But meanwhile, we have to talk about Ken. Because while Barbie is having this existential awakening, Ken is having a radicalization.
And this is section 4, Ken's radicalization and the Manosphere.
It starts with what the report calls the ontological void.
And Ken.
It's a funny joke in the marketing. She's everything, he's just Ken. But existentially, that is an absolute nightmare.
Imagine having no inner life. I mean, truly none. Imagine your entire existence is defined by whether or not someone else looks at you. The report says Ken has no inner life. His existence is flat earth masculinity.
He has no job. He's just beach. That's not a job.
He has no house. He sleeps. Where? We don't know. He literally waits on the beach for Barbie to wake up and notice him. He's an accessory. His value depends entirely on Barbie's gaze.
So he's empty, He's a vessel waiting to be filled, and when he follows Barbie to the real world, he finds something that fills that void.
The patriarchy.
And horses, don't forget the horses.
Yes, and horses. But look at how he interprets it. This is the Incel Pipeline, visualized on screen. He walks into the real world, and for the first time in his life, men look at him with respect. Not because of who he is, but simply because he's a man.
He feels seen. He feels powerful.
He sees the patriarchy not as oppression, but as a solution to his invisibility. This is exactly how radicalization works in the real world. You take lonely, alienated men who feel invisible. They get online, find the Manosphere, find these ideologies that promise them respect and power, usually at the expense of women.
So Ken takes the red pill.
He literally does. He goes to the library and grabs books on patriarchy. He absorbs the imagery of cowboys and businessmen and Sylvester Stallone. And he returns to Barbieland, not to liberate himself, but to conquer.
It's a coup, a hostile takeover.
It is a violent coup. The kingdom is a fascist state.
We laughed at the Mojo Dojo Casa House. It's ridiculous. It's fur coats and mini fridges full of beer. But the report calls this aesthetic fascism.
It's a fascist frat house.
Yeah.
I mean, think about what happens to the Barbies. This is the darkest part of the whole movie for me.
Yeah.
The president, the Nobel Prize winners, the doctors, they are all brainwashed.
They are stripped of their careers and become maids. They're giving foot rubs and serving brewskis.
That is the theft of free will.
Right.
It's the violent subjugation of women to serve the male ego. And why? Because Ken is fragile. Right. Deeply, deeply fragile.
The song, I'm Just Ken, we all sang along, it's a banger. But the lyrics, is it my destiny to live and die a life of blonde fragility? It's all there.
The kingdom is a twisted utopia for the insecure. It demands constant validation. Ken needs the Barbies to look at him, to serve him, because without that, he slides right back into that ontological void. He builds an entire regime just to prop up his fragile ego.
It's terrifying because it happens so fast. One day it's Barbieland, the next day it's the kingdom, and the Constitution has literally been thrown out.
Which brings us to the visual language of the film. We've talked about the plot, but we need to talk about why the movie looks and feels the way it does. Section 5. The aesthetics of the uncanny.
It's the pink. It is so pink. Aggressively pink.
It is an eye-searing shade of pink. The report calls it a sensory assault.
It almost hurts to look at after a while. Like snow blindness, but with magenta.
And that's the point. The hypersaturation acts as a blinding agent. It masks the internal logic of the void. If everything is bright and colorful and happy, you don't notice that there's no air. You don't notice the emptiness.
And the sets, they feel small. They feel like doll houses, obviously, but...
Spatial horror. It's claustrophobia. The sets are designed to look like a stage. They want you to feel like you are being watched.
Because you are. The houses have no walls.
Exactly. No privacy. The dream house has no walls. This means the toxic positivity is never broken. Everyone is always performing. You can't go into your room and cry because your neighbors can see you. You can't have a secret thought.
That's a panopticon again. The neighbors enforce the happiness just by existing.
And then there's the sound, what the report calls the Greek chorus.
The Lizzo track. Pink goes with everything.
The report argues that the soundtrack narrating Barbie's life prevents internal monologue. If a voice from the sky is constantly narrating how great your day is, you can't hear your own thoughts. You can't ask yourself, wait, is this really a great day? It's part of the cultic enforcement. It drowns out introspection.
So we have the prison, the awakening, the corporate villain, the radicalized insurgent, and the surveillance state aesthetics. How does this possibly end?
It ends with the most horrifying and, I think, beautiful choice a character can make. Section 6. The resolution, the death wish.
So the movie wraps up the Ken plot. The Barbies take back power, using cognitive dissonance to deprogram the Kens, which is brilliant. But then Barbie is left with a choice. She's still broken.
Ruth Handler returns, the creator, the god of this universe, and she offers the final ultimatum. You can go back to being a doll perfect, immoral plastic, or you can become human.
And Ruth explicitly says being human can be pretty uncomfortable. She doesn't sell it as this amazing prize.
She warns her, and Barbie chooses discomfort. She chooses cellulite, tears, and a gynecologist appointment.
Why? Why would anyone choose that over paradise, even a fake paradise?
Because she wants to die.
That sounds suicidal. That's a huge leap.
It's not suicidal, it's existential. The report puts it this way. Life is only meaningful because it ends. She trades immortality and rictus smiles for finitude, for an ending. She realizes that Barbieland was a coffin, the dream house was a cage. The only way to truly be is to eventually be able to not be.
So she chooses mortality. She chooses to have a limited amount of time.
Yes. which gives every moment in that time meaning. And that leads us to the final line of the movie. She walks into an office and says,
"Are you here to see my gynecologist?"
and everyone laughed. It's a funny button on the movie.
Yeah.
A little bit of a shock joke, but you're saying it's not a joke.
It's not just a joke. It's the final nail in the coffin of the doll. Dolls don't have genitals. They have that smooth, featureless plastic mound.
The Cronenbergian erasure of sex, as the report calls it.
Exactly. By going to the gynecologist, she's confirming her biological complexity. She's confirming she has reproductive organs, which means she ages, which means she can decay, which means she will one day die. It's the final step. It's the horror of the real.
The ending isn't happily ever after. It's an entry into struggle, into pain, into bad days and heartbreak and getting old.
But it's real.
And that's the verdict. The Huss expert consensus here is that the ending is a victory, but it's a grim one. Barbie has escaped the Truman Show of dolls, but the Eden of Barbieland is revealed to be a lie. The only escape was through the horror of the flesh.
Wow. Okay. I'm never going to watch this movie the same way again. It's gone from a fun popcorn flick to this deep, dark meditation on the nature of existence.
As I think it should. It has layers.
So, to recap, we started with a comedy, we pulled back the curtain and found a corporate fascist cult operating out of a pink cul-de-sac. We watched a man get radicalized by the internet and horses. We watched a woman choose death over perfection. And we realized that the color pink can be weaponized.
The movie is a profound commentary on manipulation and deprogramming. It asks us to look at the structures we live in, the narratives we accept.
Which brings us to our final thought for the listener. And I want you to really think about this as you go about your day today after hearing all this.
Look at your own loops. Look at your own scripted performances. When you post on social media, when you ask someone, "How are you?" and they say, "Good," is that real? Or is that the script?
Are you living in your own plastic purgatory of toxic positivity? Are you just smiling and waving because everyone else is smiling and waving?
And if you are you brave enough to choose the flat feet? Are you brave enough to choose the grim, messy, uncomfortable reality just to feel something real?
That's the question. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the real world.
Don't forget your Birkenstocks.